In this video, I will show you step by step to create a run cycle animation. I will start with the legs. You can hide the joints since we will only use the controllers for animation. At frame 1, we will create the first pose. It is the passing pose of the run cycle. Bring the hip controller down to where the legs can be relaxed. Hit the S key to create a keyframe after you applied the changes. Shrink the time slider down to 17 frames. Select the foot controllers and the hip controller, hold the Shift key and click on the first keyframe. Right-click and copy that keyframe. Paste the keyframe to frame 9 and 17 to create the second and the third passing pose of the run cycle. At frame 9, mirror the pose. At frame 3, create the up pose. The character will reach the highest spot in the run cycle. At frame 6, create the contact pose. At this pose, character's weight shifts to the left leg and the left foot contacts the ground. Select the hip controller, copy frame 3 to frame 11, and copy frame 6 to frame 14. At frame 11, mirror the pose at frame 3. At frame 14, mirror the pose at frame 6. Now, we finish the animation cycle on the legs. Let's add the weight shifting animation. At frame 1, when the right leg supporting the weight, shift the hip controller to the right. At frame 9, when the left leg supporting the weight, shift the hip controller to the left. Add values to the in-between frames to smooth the transitions. Now, let's tilt the body when she switches legs. At frame 1, when the hip shifts to the right leg, tilt it to the opposite side. At frame 9, when the hip shifts to the left leg, tilt it to the right. For the tilt animation, I used the same value as the translate X value. At frame 1, when the hip tilt to her left, the chest and the shoulder will tilt to the right to keep balance. Same thing at frame 9 and at frame 17. Now, let's tilt the hip along the y-axis. At frame 1, when the left leg is in front of her, tilt the left side of the hip to the front. At frame 9, when the right leg is in front of her, tilt the right side of the hip to the front. The frame 17 is the same as frame 1. Add values to the in-between frames to smooth the transitions. The spine joints will tilt in the opposite direction. You can copy the keyframes from the spine joint to the chest joint. Now the hip and the spine joints should be rotating along the y-axis as she runs. Let's add keyframes to the arms. At frame 1, place the right arm in front of her. We can add value to the fist channel to close her palms. The fist channel was created with the driven key. You can watch the earlier tutorial to learn how it was created. Select both arm controllers, copy the first keyframe to frame 9 and frame 17. At frame 9, mirror the arm pose at frame 1. At frame 3, the up pose, place her arms even higher as she reach the highest spot in the run cycle. At frame 6, the down pose, the arms should be higher due to the inertia. Select both arm controllers and copy frame 3 to frame 6. Lower the arms a little bit. At frame 11, mirror the pose at frame 3. At frame 14, mirror the pose at frame 6. Now, we finish the structure of the run cycle, and we will polish the animation in the next step. Go to Select All by Type and select NURB Curves. Go to Windows, Animation Editors, Graph Editor. The Graph Editor will show the keyframes on all controllers we selected. Select all keyframes in the Graph Editor and apply the Easy Ease to smooth the animation. Go to Curves, turn on Cycle for both the pre-infinity and the post-infinity. Go to View and turn on the infinity. Select the left foot controller, go to each channel and smooth the curve a little bit. The translate white curve indicates the foot moves up and down. The translate Z curve indicates the foot moves forward and backward. The rotate X curve indicates the foot rotates forward and backward along the X-axis. At frame 7, the left foot should stay on the ground plane. Go to the Rotate X channel and zero out the value. Hit the S key to block that keyframe. The left foot should remain on the ground plane until frame 9. We can zero out the Rotate X value at frame 9. Go to Translate White channel and zero out the value at frame 9, frame 7, and frame 6. At frame 9, the left leg is locked. Lower down the hip controller to relax the left leg a little bit. Same thing at frame 6. Select the hip controller and copy the frame 9 to frame 1. Select the left foot controller and smooth the foot rotation. Select the right foot controller. At frame 14, zero out the translate Y value to bring the foot to the ground plane. Same at frame 17 and at frame 1. Smooth the curve a little bit. Translate Z curve indicates how the foot moves forward and backward. Polish the curve to make a smoother animation. On Rotate X channel. At frame 15, zero out the value to make the foot stay on the ground. Zero out the value at frame 17 and at frame 1 so the foot can stay on the ground. Now, we finish the details on the legs. Select the hip controller. The Translate X curve indicates how the hip shifts left and right. Polish the curve to make a better transition. The Translate Y curve indicates the height of each pose. We can zero out the Translate Z value on all keyframes. Polish the Rotate Y and the Rotate Z curves to make a smoother tilt animation on the hip. The spine joint and the chest joint looks good. Select the left arm controller, polish the Translate X and the Translate Y curve to create a smoother arm swing animation. Polish the rotation curves to create smoother hand rotation animation. Same for the right arm. Place the eye controller and the knee controller in front of her so her eyeballs and knee joints can aim to the front. That's the entire workflow of animating a run cycle.